Fertilizer prices are spiking again, and it's not just about farming. Europe's new penalties on Russian supply, shifting global tensions, and record-breaking cost ratios are putting pressure on producers and raising big questions for the season ahead. I'm Johanna Bota, and joining me to break it all down is StoneX's Vice President of Fertilizer, Josh Linville. Welcome back, Josh. Let's get straight to it, shall we? Now that the dust has settled in the Middle East, Europe is turning its attention back to Russia and imposing larger penalties on Russian fertilizers. So will these new penalties shut off supply completely?
Yeah, it's hard to believe that this Middle East conflict found a ceasefire so quickly, but that's fortunate for everybody involved. And yeah, now all of a sudden, as a fertilizer market, we're kind of backing up and realizing, oh wait, the Russia-Ukraine situation is still very much a war. That's still very much a fight. We just kind of forgot about there for a couple weeks. And yeah, the European Union has been very tired of this fighting, which they see it more as an aggression. They think if they take Ukraine, who's next? Are they going to continue to march west? We've seen that happen throughout that theater over the decades, over the millennia. So a very real concern of theirs. So yeah, now there are additional penalties to Russian fertilizer, which the EU sees as a kind of a counterintuitive thing they've been doing. Why send money to Russia for their fertilizer, which Russia will then put into the war complex to fight the country that they're trying to support? It doesn't make a lot of sense. I never want to sit there and talk in guarantees and absolutes. There could still be situations where a little bit of fertilizer comes into Europe, willing to pay that penalty because it's still the best option, but it is going to make it severely difficult for that to happen. And ultimately, whenever we see this in commodity markets, it's typically the farmers of the country that put these tariffs in place that pay that penalty, that pay that price. That's what we've seen here in the US when we started putting tariffs on people. We expect that fully to happen to European farmers.
Right. So with the spotlight then back on Russia and Ukraine, could this shift global fertilizer markets? And if it happens, will that reopen pipelines or will more sanctions force Russia to cut back supply?
So it will absolutely change things because all of a sudden, let's assume that we do deal with guarantees, absolutes, and Russia is no longer able to go to Europe. Well, it's not as though that demand completely disappears. Those farmers still need their fertilizers to raise the crops, to raise the food. So now they will start going to other points around the world, competing with those normal buyers, trying to lock up the tons that they need. Russia, on the other hand, will now start to try and find new places to go around the world. Now, all of a sudden, they've got to start to establish new trade flows. So it has a massive, massive change. This one point A, point B type change is going to have changes all around the world. And in terms of the piece, it would have, I believe, an immediate and hopefully a longer term impact on fertilizer prices, most notably nitrogen. During the early days of the war, the invasion, Russia shut down the Nord Stream, and then very quickly somebody attacked and blew up both of the pipelines for Nord Stream 1 and one of the pipelines for Nord Stream 2. Even if they wanted to resume shipments, they couldn't. And that's a big issue. That's why European production of nitrogen remains about 75% of normal. So let's say, hey, by next week, we come back from the 4th of July holiday here in the US, and we figured out there is peace between Ukraine and Russia. Well, the next step is now Europe needs to normalize relations with Russia. Then Europe has to be willing to take natural gas back from Russia once again. Then they need to repair the Nord Stream pipelines. Only then can we start to find out, can these plants that have been offline for multi-years, can they restart? These nitrogen plants are rather up there in age. They've been sitting idle for a while. Even though the crews have been working very hard to maintain them, it's still a situation that these plants are old. It's not going to be incredibly easy to just flip a switch and turn them.
That is some very optimistic, wishful thinking, Josh. Now, before I let you go, just one last thing. North American farmers are facing one of the worst cost to crop value ratios in history. Why are fertilizer prices soaring while grain values slump?
Yeah, it's a very difficult situation. You talk to almost any farmer out there, and this is going to be a topic of their conversation. Unfortunately, it's global events. We have seen global supplies fail to keep up with global demand over the years. And now we've gotten into this situation where if there are supply hiccups, there's not the excess production out there to make up the difference. The S&D Econ 101 tells us the supply and demand lines need to intersect. They need to be balanced. Today, a lot of these products are not balanced. So the first thing the market does is go to supply and say, okay, can we produce more? And the large resounding answer is no, not today. No, we cannot. So the next step you got to do is we have to destroy demand. And that's what the price is actively doing. It's trying to push that price high enough where farmers just throw their hands in the air and say, fine, I'll wait, I'll skip it, I'll switch my crops. I will not use this fertilizer. This is the market actively trying to kill demand. And it's frustrating because farmers are looking at very, very low grain prices while fertilizer prices continue to ignore that and continue to move higher. So it is, fortunately, for the time of year, it's early summer. We are the first day of July. We have a long time in front of us before the next application season. But in fertilizer, that calendar moves fast.
Josh, thank you as always for some great insight. And thank you for watching. For more financial content, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel.